What is up, Wizards fans? Welcome to another Believe in Wizards podcast. I've got Will Clayton joining me here today. Will, as everyone knows, you and I are probably the two biggest Deni fans on Wizards Twitter. So we just had to get on here and talk about our guy's career night. We've seen this coming for a long time. It's all either of us can talk about. It's just, Deni's always had this potential. So I'm glad they finally unlocked it. I don't know. What did you see tonight? Just kind of first, like what was working for him other than everything, but just break down, the Deni experience from your perspective.
Well, you've been a much bigger Denny fan than I have, and notably and historically. So
It's
I
okay.
appreciate you having me on.
Look, man, if somebody can lie their way to the presidency, I can lie my way to the presidency of the Deni fan club. So we're doing it here. It's happening. We're rewriting history tonight.
You have a good in with me. I'll vouch for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, tonight was, I mean, with Kuzma being out, I kind of expected a little bit of a bigger game for him.
Sure.
And especially, with how he's been playing lately, he had three 20-point plus outings back to back to back, which was the first time he had done that in his career. So,
Mhm.
he had good momentum coming in. But really, I mean, what kind of surprised me, I think, even from his first shot of the night, was a pull up three
Yep.
from the top of the key that he just cashed. And I had been tweeting in the past. I was like, if he can add, a pull up jumper or counters where he's going left to his game, that's going to unlock a lot. And I mean, tonight his three was falling. I think he shot what 6 for 10
Mhm.
from deep. I mean, and these weren't just, in the past, I've seen him catching stuff in the corner, after the ball swings around or, getting bailed out, above the break and he just kind of shoots a three because he's the last guy to get the ball.
These were high degree of difficulty shots. Like,
These were tougher shots. And I mean, on top of that, he still kept his aggression. He was still driving all night. 13 free throw attempts, made
love
11
that.
of them, especially after a night where he shot poorly from the free throw line. So, I
Mhm.
mean, um, I as big of a Denny fan as I've been, I don't think I expected a night like this to happen. Probably not until like at least next season, until he's getting much more, significant time on ball. Like, but again, with Kuzma out, the opportunity was there, and man, did he capitalize. So I was just really happy to see the continued aggression. The shots were falling and just kind of the ability to kind of showcase that he can be a bit of a first second option, which
Mhm.
is I I don't really think I ever capped him, or I don't want to put a cap on his potential or anything like that. But when I was, in the depths of, year one and year two, defending this guy and saying like you need to hold out on his potential, I'm selling him as a just very high end caliber elite
Sure.
like role player.
Mhm.
Um, and I think he can still definitely do but he's showing so much more of his game lately over the past the few games, and it's just really exciting for his growth and his development, especially because he's 23. And given the Wizards position and his contract extension for the next 4 years, 55 million, what a great piece and asset to either have and build around or, send and get other, draft capital. It's just, oh man, it's just like of all the things that Wizards fans can point to and be happy about, Denny's got to be at the top of the list right now. So I'm just stoked.
I, I will take whatever shit the actual full on Denny stands want to give me for this. I would have never seen this kind of night coming from him. Honestly, maybe ever. Like this level of scoring and the way he did it. So that's terrific to see. Uh, Jihadi and I, there is obviously an internet full of proof of this. Did an entire podcast talking about what a steal we thought the contract was, despite me supposedly not congratulating him on that. But if you get 20% of this level of production from Denny moving forward, the contract still looks really good. If you get, this every so often and just what we've got in the last week or so, I mean that's already like he's grossly underpaid by NBA standards. So he's like well below
Yeah.
the mid level at this point, I think, and having him locked in here, that's just maybe the best thing the Wizards front office has done in like a long time. I mean, like genuinely, like it may look really really good in another year or two for sure. It looks good already now.
Yeah, I mean, when he signed the extension, I remember thinking like, "Wow, that's really, really good value,"
Yep.
and that's pre any of this, type of growth that he's displayed recently. especially since just kind of like January. He's really just taken a whole new step.
Mhm.
He was showcasing good consistency before then, but yeah, this looks like kind of like a different dude. You know, and yeah, props to the front office for working and re-signing him. I keep seeing a lot of stuff about Tommy apologists or whatever. This might be. I tweeted something to the effect of that was like, this might be the move where you have to give Tommy a little credit, but even then, we were reported to have to. We were mentioned of getting Halliburton.
Right.
So like, even in him making a good draft pick accidentally with Avdia, it was at the behest of passing on Hallie. But that's all spilt milk. I'm just very happy that Deni is kind of growing and showing the strides that you expect from a first round pick and a lottery pick. And finally some of that promise that offensively that he was billed to have coming out that we really didn't get to see much of early on. And it's exciting.
Before we get too deep into this, we're brought to you by Surfside. Hard iced teas, hard lemonades, hard half and halves, hard peach teas. We all deserve a couple of them right now. It's been a tough year for Wizards fans, so go out and get a couple. Also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, match reports for baseball, boxing, UFC, golf, tennis. And bet on Denny's stat lines if you want. You want to pick him up every night, you go ahead and do that. It's your fastest and easiest way to place all your wagers, including live betting on your favorite casino and card games. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up. Use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. All right, we buried the lead here a little bit just to recap. Wizards do lose. Who gives a shit? That's a good thing. It's good for the tank. 43 points from Deni tonight, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, plus 17 if you care about plus minus, which I typically don't, but that seemed to be, they were better when he was on the court, so I think that's obviously reasonable. But 13 of 24, 6 of 10 from 3. You mentioned the 11 of 13 from the free throw line. I think that might be my favorite part of it because when he was like, I don't know. So this is what I wrestle with a little bit here, Will, and I would love your perspective on it. Like I saw a lot of like, well, now that this new coaching staff has finally unleashed Deni, and like, yeah, they're doing some things differently. They're giving him the ball more, but I don't think that's the real difference between this year and last year. Like, I think he is just better, and the shooting form. I mean, our guy Clay Williams talked all summer about the shooting coach that he worked with, and had some really great information on that. And it's clearly paid off here because this is what at least I thought I was saying. Maybe not. Was that if he can't shoot, he can't unlock all the other things he does well. He can't get downhill, can't facilitate. If guys are sagging off you 10 feet, there's really not a whole lot you can bring to the table offensively. You bring the ball up the court, doesn't even really make sense because unless you can get like that full, head of steam, you're not really going to like put any pressure on defense. But now if he's shooting like this and can just be like high 30s from now on, that's where we get all the other stuff. And I think the other stuff was more so there, but everything's more polished. He still doesn't really go left all that often, but he looks a little more confident. He looks a little more willing to just like take the ball to the hole. And his first step is quick enough. Like Jahadi's always said he thinks Deni is a quick player. Like, you're not fast in a traditional sense, but especially for the guys that are typically guarding him, he can put them on his heels if he just goes. And now that they have to respect the jumper and close out on him a little bit more, he can do that. And I think that's really more of what we're seeing than this magic secret formula that Brian Keefe has, unlocked with him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with honestly all of that. The like Jahadi's talking about the quickness. That's what it is, especially for his size. If he's guarding, if he's playing the 4 and he's got other 6'10" guys that can't move laterally that well. I mean, he's got a quick first step for what would be a guard for someone his size. That's just really, really tough. And that's what's helping him with the whole right versus left thing. Cause he's trying to go left. He's definitely made some efforts, but it does not look anywhere near as smooth. And it's getting better, and it will as he grinds out reps. I love that he's having this opportunity, but it's pretty clear he still favors going to right. But I mean, at the same time, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Cause I mean, it's still working. He's able to get right, either get into some guy's chest and power through him, draw the contact for the foul. And lately he's been adding much more pace and hesitation. Like he's doing that slow step that I've seen Luka do, where he can decelerate when he gets closer to the rim and still put up a shot while drawing the contact. That's huge. Being able to add something like that, that's an effective counter, and those are the things that he needs to do to grow as a scorer. But to your point about it, whether it's Wes and Brian Key for changes, I really don't think it's much of that, because they were giving Deni opportunities last year, and they were giving her smaller opportunities even in year two. He just really struggled offensively. Like I can't tell you how many layups I saw him miss, and times where a center's guarding him at the three and just sags off and he would brick the open three. Shout out to our guy Clay, fellow Deni Hive member. He did do a deep dive on the shooting coach that Deni worked with in the offseason. And to me, it's clear that has paid dividends, because the form does look smoother. They definitely made some kind of alteration where they grinded it out through reps, where it's just a quicker, easier for release to him. And it just doesn't look as robotic as it did in his first 2 seasons of his career. And I mean, the results really speak for themselves, because seeing him make a couple shots, I think, unlocks that level of confidence. And that's something that I've spoken to since his rookie season, where when he's confident, you just see a completely different player on the court. And I mean, tonight, it was like he was mainlining confidence into his veins, and just, with that, you get a wholly different player. So, I mean, the shooting, like you said, that unlocks his ability to drive, because people have to start respecting his shot, which, coupled with his first step and his size, makes him a problem to defend, especially with the typical type of defender that's going to be on. There's a lot of good things that it's like a domino effect. Like once he figured out this aspect of his game, it makes so many other aspects of the game easier for him, and he can continue to unlock those things. And the real added benefit here is that the guy who's in his ear most learning from is Kyle Kuzma. And that's another and skilled guy with the ability to shoot and get downhill, knows how to play 6'10". People get on Kuz for his shot selection, but man, that's a talented guy. And if you're trying to develop from a skill perspective, somebody, I really can't think someone better other than like Kevin Durant or something like that. But I mean, we're the Wizards. KD would never come here. We've tried that.
It's the best we can do. Yeah.
We've got Kyle Kuzma. And given everything that Kuzma's been saying, in the offseason about wanting to be in DC and it's just one of those things that I think Deni's development's in really good hands going forward. And I think there's a very good pathway to him becoming even more than what I kind of thought his expectations were. If you get this level of player consistently, I mean, he's not going to drop 40 regularly, but he dropped 43 with 14 boards, and that's coming off averaging like 23 and 10 essentially, with really good playmaking. And the defenses has taken a little bit of a step back this year at the, trade-off of his offense taking a monumental leap.
It's a better blend, and I think you'll take that every time if you're the Wizards.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, knowing that Deni has the ability to defend like that, that's really what you want. Because if he has to lock in and guard somebody, and that's the situation, he's shown that he can do that. And I mean, that's what it's all about, is stacking different skills and traits. And right now, Deni is adding a bunch of appealing things that, I've heard it said on multiple different podcasts across the NBA. He's a winning player, and he's the kind of player that winning teams look for. So, I mean, it's just, I'm blown away. Like I was not expecting a 40 piece tonight. When I saw he had 14 and 7 at the half, I was like, oh yeah, good Deni game. Then he goes for 20 in the third quarter, and I'm just like, what the hell has gotten into this dude? I love it. Yeah. So it's just crazy. I'm really happy for the guy, and I'm really happy for Wizards fans, and all the haters and the doubters. There's no victory lap that needs to be had, because I'm going to try and do the fake humble thing. But just know I'm really very much just like, suck it. I called it.
No, I mean, when you're that invested in a particular player, and it's somebody that's been such a lightning rod, I mean, that's hey, do your thing. Like I get it. It's going to be really interesting to see. I think somebody had it in the chat here. The GOAT, shout out the GOAT. Opposing game plans are going to look for him now. I think that's really going to be the next thing. Is I think we've seen the way Kyle Kuzma's been guarded change over the course of the year based on teams now knowing, all right, well, maybe we don't have to account for Jordan Poole quite as much as we thought we were going to. And doesn't seem like
Right.
Kuzma's responded to that as well as some of us would have liked from a shot selection standpoint. All right, well, now, Deni, like you've gone from basically people weren't guarding you the first third of last season to now you've made them take you seriously. And we're going to see what he does. And I'm not trying to be a hater. This is how the NBA works. I'm expecting him to take a step back here a little bit as that happens. And it's really what about, how he goes about this next, right? What are the counters to that? Can he spend the rest of the season being more of a primary offensive option and seeing, okay, this is now how people are going to defend me. What do I add to my bag? That's really what it's about, is adding, adjusting, counters. And, Deni seems to work really hard, and we've seen a lot of growth there. So I think that's an encouraging sign if you're the Wizards, is just, hey, can you hit this first step of, can you even score this many points? And there was a stretch earlier in his career, like where it didn't look like he was capable of a 43-point night, period.
Yeah.
Let alone, the way he did it tonight.
14-point night.
Yeah, right. Honestly. But I think something you said there was really interesting. Well, all of it was interesting, but one particularly stood out was just this sort of notion of a guy that size that can pass, dribble, shoot, and defend. And that seems to be really kind of the OKC model. Like if you're Will Dawkins and company, that's really what you wanted to see from this guy. Can he do enough offensively to be that sort of multi-tool player? And now we've seen a step back defensively at the, sort of counter of his offense, or the trade-off with his offense. But if you surround him with four other guys that can all now pass, dribble, shoot, and defend, and kind of pick and choose your nights, where some nights he can be the stopper or some nights he can be more of a focal point, I think that's really going to be the blueprint of what they try to build this team around. You see Koulibaly's got that sort of profile to do that. Kuzma ideally has that profile to do it. Poole, Tyus Jones, maybe not so much, but that's sort of like where I think they're wanting to go. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they do in this draft, because no matter how weak it is, there are still guys that sort of project as that type of multi-tool athletic player. And I think something that, I didn't give Deni credit for was that quickness piece. Honestly, I've always kind of maintained he's a strong guy. He's better guarding bigger guys because I think he had the strength to hold up. But if you can just sort of get to your spots, it doesn't really matter if you have a 45-inch vertical or not. It's about getting where you want on the court. And for Deni, like the way the NBA is guarded right now, I think is actually to his benefit, because he's kind of figured out from being a good defender what he can do offensively and get away with. And we've seen him bully ball his way into the paint. He's like kind of like jump hooks almost, or like kind of a nice little development, because he's a big enough dude that when he gets somebody on his hip and gets that kind of left shoulder into him, it's food. I mean, the guy just makes it kind of every time. So
shout out Kevin Seraphin.
Yeah, exactly right, man. I've been watching old tape. Just you mentioned here though, the last couple games, like to me, it's less about like a 43-point night. You can say like anybody can get crazy hot for a night. It's the thing with Deni has always been the consistency. Even during the turbo run, which I'm sorry, I just can't call another grown man turbo. Call him whatever else we want. I just can't do it. But
he's outgrown it anyway.
Exactly right. That's not enough at this point. But we've got a 25-point, 7 rebound, 3 assist night, a 21-point, 13 rebound, 5 assist night, a 24-point, 11 rebound, 4 assist night, a 9, 8, and 3 night is his worst game in about a 2-week span. And then before that, a 24-point, 3 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block night. I mean, you can't beat that. Like it's kind of probably closer to like a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Like that's okay. I'd like to see a little more playmaking from Deni, but also, sometimes other guys got to make shots too. And hey, it's not like he's been particularly selfish. And when he has been, I don't. Sometimes shooting a lot isn't selfish, and I think that's a thing I've maintained with Kuzma as well. Is just sometimes the team needs you to do that. If you're the only one
taking
who can create
shots from Jordan Poole,
Right, exactly.
I think you could make an argument,
Yeah,
which, I'm rooting for Poole, but
it's
no
for the
disrespect.
benefit of the team at this point here.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Will, any other kind of major takeaways from tonight's game?
Uh, no, I mean, it was just really nice to kind of see him put everything together and see it kind of all like the potential realized.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversations I've had with detractors on Twitter where it's just like, oh, he's never had a signature game. And it's nice to have this one to kind of be like, oh, yeah, well, what about his 40 piece against the Pelicans? But
Along those lines, I tweeted early in this game, this might be the Deni game, and I looked really stupid about 10 minutes later with the might. I mean, it just became an immediate.
it
Someone
is the
even tweeted
Denny
me that, like, you don't need might here. It's like, yeah, no,
game.
no shit. Now that he has 43, I realized that. At the time, I thought I was going out on a limb a little bit, but yeah, sorry, please continue.
No, yeah, I mean, kind of just going off like your larger point, I really agree with what you were saying about the OKC, especially. I mean, we've got Dawkins in there. I was reading something on the Athletic about, um, you know, I and forgive me if I'm getting the last name wrong. Mark Daignault or Daignault.
Dagnall, yeah.
I don't know. Daignault. Okay. He was kind of preaching about their philosophy and how essentially it's not, they don't adhere to the specialist mentality. Like their
Mhm.
center isn't just a rim protector and
Yep.
rebounder. I mean, look at Chet. I mean, you're not going to put him in just that box anyway. He's too talented. But across the board, they have expectations for everyone on their roster to kind of do a little bit of everything and pull their weight in every aspect of the game. And if that's something that can be adopted in Washington, you know, hell yeah,
Mhm.
because we need some of that mentality.
Yeah.
And I do think there is some truth to that when you look at the kind of player that they're um, seeking. I mean, their first draft pick was Bilal, and I mean, I think he
Okay.
definitely slots into that. Tall wing, do it all player.
Mhm.
And the potential for him is still kind of, the sky's the limit. But yeah, Kuzma, Denny, those kind of guys that are multi-tooled that can pass, defend, put the ball on the floor if they need to. That's the direction the NBA is heading. And if you have a bunch of tall guys like that, or if a bunch of French guys like that, like Rizar Shea, if we want to look that direction in the draft, I'm not
Yeah.
opposed to it.
Same.
You know, that kind of player, whether or not they max out potential as an all-star is always going to be valued in the NBA, and they're always going to have a place on the floor,
Sure.
assuming that they have a baseline level of competence. And I trust our front office's ability to identify that talent. Um, it's very early to probably say that through one draft, but I just have a good feeling given
Yeah,
the
they've been other
perapery
places
that
enough
they
to know.
have.
Yeah, exactly. You know
Yeah.
the track record.
So I'm comfortable to see where they go with this, but it's just really nice to kind of have be a little bit more ahead of schedule with one of our assets or prospects than I think a lot of people initially thought. And I
Mhm.
mean, to that, I don't want to just give Denny all the shine. I know he's my guy, and I've been in his corner forever. Corey Kispert's been looking great lately too.
Agreed. He had a great night.
Um, yeah, he was his shooting was a great compliment, and I mean, I all the stuff I couldn't believe it when I first saw it about his 2-point field goal percentage, about how efficient he is as a finisher. So, shout out to Corey as well. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
This is Corey's 3rd 20-point game in the last 5 or, last 5 games here. I mean, that alone is even more, offensive output than we've seen from Corey, and, a lot of us, I think, said at the deadline, we'd like to see some of the veteran guys moved out, and they didn't actually move them out, but they've seemed to prioritize shots and usage for these 2 guys, and maybe it's not the youngest guys on the roster, but it's sort of the young vets at the very least. Like, that's sort of how I look at Denny and Corey at this point, and for Denny,
yeah,
it's almost become like the Jason Tatum joke where, like, "Oh, he's still only 19 years old." Like, it's crazy that he's still only 23 as the, sort of oldest tenured Wizard right now, but, yeah, you
yeah,
made
it's
a great
wild.
point with Corey there too, so, happy to see that. Uh, well, here's a question for you. Is Denny the best player on the Wizards right now?
Uh, it depends on how you're, I guess, uh, defining that answer because I think there's an argument that he has played the best and he has played the most consistently on this
Mhm.
Wizards roster. And I don't think there's as much an argument for,
Sure.
honestly. Um, if Kuzma was still playing like he was at the beginning of the year, I don't think I could say that. But Kuzma's kind of really struggled lately.
Yep.
And Denny wasn't struggling at the beginning of the year. His role just wasn't as large as it was. And he's kind of forced the issue and been like, hey, look, you have to give me the ball more because I'm productive and efficient with it. So I would say yes. But if you're looking at it from a skill perspective, I do think Kuzma's the most skilled player on the team. You can gripe about his shot selection.
Right.
And I do too sometimes. Like, I wish he wouldn't do some of the things he does. But like, from just like an understanding basketball perspective and just an ability standpoint, I think he's the most talented guy on the roster. But uh, Denny's Denny's making a really good case for himself, which is crazy considering he has a very limited left hand. So
We said a couple weeks ago that we thought he was the most consistent. I wasn't ready to say best player, but I did say best two-way player, and I think that's sort of hard to argue at this point. I think
yeah,
Kuzma's maybe given you a little bit more versatility or different dimensions offensively over the course of the year. Minus the last couple weeks of really weird ISO fadeaway threes that are off balance and things like that. But uh, that's been kind of Denny's calling card is all right. He's going to bring it on defense, and like I said, it's taken a step back, but it's still on a team where no one else is really defending anyone at a high level anyway. He's still probably one of the better defenders on the team. So I think that's still like a pretty fair point. He's the best balance of those two kind of things. And the other thing here, just touching on the 3-point shooting here for a little bit, we talked about how the form looks a lot better. The numbers bear that out. Obviously, he's up from 29.7% last year on 3.1 attempts to 39.2% this year, but down to 2.7 attempts. And I think that's because he's made an emphasis on getting to the rim. But I say this with Kuzma. I think it for Kispert. I obviously think it applies across the board and applies to Deni as well here. The volume isn't enough to like really bury a team. So like the extra 10%, it's kind of like marginal in terms of what that actually gives you in terms of production. But it's now teams are guarding him like he is a 40% 3-point shooter. And that's really what you need here. Like Kuzma has the most gravity to me on the team, even when he's not shooting well.
yeah,
Teams treat him like a guy who can make any shot he takes. And I think that opens things up for other people. And I think that's kind of an underrated thing about what he brings to the team, even when he's struggling. I think we saw that with Deni tonight, too. There were a lot of times where he drew a guy all the way out to probably 28 feet and then moved the ball around. And actually, I think that made life easier for Jordan Poole here tonight, too. Like, I want to give him a little bit of love. Like, to me, the best Jordan Poole games this year have been the ones where we just haven't had to say a lot of crazy shit about Jordan Poole. And he was just like quietly really solid tonight. There were a few like no, yes moments or just a few no moments. But overall, it just didn't feel like he was out over his skis. And I felt that way a lot this season too. So shout out Poole for being better, at least better-ish.
yeah, yeah. And the thing with Poole, everybody's rooting for Poole too. Like it's we all want him to be better, and it's tough to see him struggle. So like any progress he's making, I'm fully welcoming it because I mean he's going to be here for a while. So there's no sense in just pissing in the pool, y'all.
Yeah.
No pun. I really didn't even mean to make that
That was
pun. Wow.
perfect. That's even better when you
Yeah.
don't mean it.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Sam Hershey said in the chat, come on, y'all. Kuzma's the best player on the team, and opposing teams plan to stop him first. I agree. We already talked about that. We're going to see what Deni brings to the table
Yeah.
when someone guards him like he's the primary option. And we did see that tonight a little bit more. Like they had to account for him. And it's not like they didn't say, oh, he wasn't in the scouting report at all, so we're just not going to guard him. Like it is different though when a team's entire plan kind of starts and ends with you as the guy. So we'll see what that's like from Deni. But Kuzma, I think, is sort of a victim of his circumstance on this team. Like he should be a third, fourth offensive option when you're the first option. It's a little tougher. So we'll see what all those other people look like. And either way, it's still two good guys to me that are productive rotation players on anybody's team at any level that are on good contracts, and that's what you want, and that's what we haven't had enough of in Washington. There's been a couple comments here in the chat too about like, did the Wizards win tonight? Like whatever. I don't care. None of the record doesn't matter whether they're 10-42 or 11-41. Like it's totally irrelevant at this point. So you keep the like draft stock that you're at right now, and one of your younger players looked like a piece for the future. Like that's a win. That's what we've wanted for this entire Wizards season.
That's what winning was going to look like at the beginning of the season. Like
Right.
we wanted competitive losses where we could root for our young guys and see growth.
Yeah.
And, we wanted to lose to have better draft positioning. Like that's, as far as I'm concerned, tonight was a win. Like if we actually won the game itself, great. I would have been happy just because we're already so far, down in the standings, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like, if we're consistently winning and we still need to stagnate, it's weird. No, we're supposed to lose this and see growth. This is what we want. Yeah.
I was really waiting for the Wizards to send out like their summary stats email from the PR department before we ended this podcast, because there's always just like a few like absolute gems on there about how they characterize this. So I'm actually interested in it when somebody actually has a big night, how they're gonna like try to frame that. And I don't know if there'll be like a invitation to like his Hall of Fame induction speech as part of the email or whatever, but I'm going to be looking forward to that. So we'll talk about that.
We've moved up, what is it? Jewish Heritage Night to next week.
It's every night at this point. We're just like, I don't know. I don't have the stats here. I can't actually back this up, but it just feels like from the minute we let this guy design his own hat, he's been going ape shit. So should everybody get their own hat night at this point? We might actually win the NBA title if that were the case.
Not for nothing. It's a good looking hat. It was a tasteful design. So, let's go. Yeah, there's something to that theory. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he might not have won. I think he just played really well the night after he made his hat, which is,
he
shout out.
He played good for the hat night game, which is awesome. Yeah. And then I don't know, man, we've been trending up ever since. So how do we get Belisle a hat night? Like how long do we have to wait? Does it have to be 4 years in before we let the man design a hat?
Does it have to be a beret? Like, what do we do?
That would actually be fire. Like,
that would honestly be pretty cool.
I did give away my Deni hat, so now I'm a little bit regretting that. And before someone says I throw it in the trash because I hate Deni or something, I just wanted a better Deni fan than me, despite being a gigantic Deni fan that I am, to have the hat. So
for all the people hating on Matt for his Deni takes that don't listen to the pod for his Deni takes, listen to me and say like, can it? Shut up. Stop it. It's annoying. Like Matt's a straight shooter and he's never ragged on Deni. Given him tons of love, and he brought me on the pod after him scoring 40. Like, shut up.
There you go. I gotta let people.
You heard it here first.
Gotta let people stretch their legs here a little bit when they've paid their dues, like you have, Will. Yeah. Anyway, I guarantee at least somebody will reply to this post directly and say, like, I can't believe Matt wasn't excited enough for Deni, but that's okay. That's what this is about. It's the internet age. This is what we're signed up for. So I don't know, Will, anything you want to leave us with here before we wrap this?
No, I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube or whatever, sorry for my lack of a glamorous background. My kids are asleep, so I'm in my garage,
Car's looking nice.
That's not even that's my in-laws. I wish I could say that's my Porsche,
okay.
But no, actually, no. Everybody watching, that's my car.
That's right.
No, I got nothing. Love the Wiz Twitter community. Really appreciate you for having me on. Love that Deni's having a great season. Anybody who's upset with this year, strap in, guys. We got a few more years of, watching some draft prospects and watching young guys grow. So, embrace the process and enjoy it. And, keep listening to Believe in Wizards for all your Wizards content.
That is a veteran move here, Will. Veteran move. Yeah, if you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube, click that little like button for us, the subscribe button. We always appreciate that stuff. And hey, if you're feeling really generous, we would always welcome an iTunes review. So Thanks for sticking with us. We've got some draft content coming up here. Jahadi and I are going to go on Friday with just sort of a recap of where we're at. I'll be bringing in different draft experts here to talk about what they're going to do with that late 20s pick as well. We've talked a lot about lottery guys already, so we'll just kind of get a different flavor in there. So, yeah, actually, Pious Devil in the comments, I just want to end with this, says, I'm happy with being an ass, but I need an 80-point Johnny Davis game. Hey, look, man, we just saw a couple of big games from Corey Kispert. Deni just went apeshit. Apparently, Rui is going nuts right now with a 30-point game of his own.
Is he? Oh, let's go, Rui.
That's what somebody tweeted me on the side here. I don't know if that's actually true.
Tommy Shepard sitting in his living room losing his mind right now.
Why am I not employed? Yeah, no, or it's like the Mr. Burns laugh, just like this is the mad scientist vision that I had for everybody. But anyway, Will, thank you for doing this, man. I always appreciate you. Just keep up the great content here yourself. And if anyone's not following Will, I will have his Twitter handle in the bio or in the description of this episode. He's a must follow. And if you're a Deni fan, obviously you're amongst friends here with Will and I, the two biggest Deni fans on Wizards Twitter. All right, everybody. With that, this is Believe in Wizards. Rate, review, subscribe. We're presented by betonline.ag, and we will catch y'all next time.